everyone. My name is Janie Cole. I'm a licensed professional counselor contracted for the Arkansas Army National Guard. With me today is my colleague, Jayla Robinson, who is also a licensed professional counselor, and Sergeant First Class Andre Chatry, who is the State Resiliency Coordinator. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited that you're here talking with us today.
Well, thank you all for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Tell us about resilience.
Well, resilience is where you're able to grow from adverse things, life-altering events, stuff like that. And at that point, you start replacing negative habits with healthy coping mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that's resilient is less prone to being able to, or less prone to deciding to suicide, or have healthier connections with other people,
Mm-hmm.
less prone for substance abuse, as a coping mechanism. So it takes a lot of forms as far as, physical fitness, stuff like that. Resiliency basically is just protective factors to help mitigate the risk factors that go on in our everyday life.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that we all have. And I've been super honest with you in the past in that I wasn't a big fan of the Army MRT program when I first learned about it, because the only thing that I ever heard was hunt the good stuff, which is that gratitude piece that that I really love and hold dear now. But I think that when we just hear that one part of it, we don't get the full picture. We don't get the full program, and it doesn't do us as much good. What do you think about that?
Like you said, with hunt the good stuff, it's an easy one to teach and it's an easy one for people to remember, but they don't remember all the parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, it is always good to have gratitude for the things that happen to us during the day. So many bad things happen that increase our negativity bias. That negativity bias is a survival skill that's been ingrained in us since we were cavemen.
Mm-hmm.
It was that sense of danger and how to avoid it. Well, now our negativity bias is in hyperdrive.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere we look, we're always seeing negative things. You stand in the grocery store aisle, ready to check out, and the newspapers, the magazines have some sort of negative connotation to all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so you turn on the news, social media, everything, you're always seeing negative stuff. So that negativity bias is in hyperdrive. That's why we say hunt the good stuff. It's always hard to find good things. If I tell you or ask you, hey, what happened to you yesterday? I bet you could give me a long list of negative things and
Mm-hmm.
a shorter list of good things, if any. So we have to look at what are the good things that have happened to us in a day, and we make that a habit of doing that daily, looking at 2 to 3 things that happened to us that were good. But the big catch to that is, why was it good? Why was it meaningful to me?
Mm-hmm.
What was that emotional attachment that I have with it? And that, once I understand why it's meaningful to me, then journal it down or really concentrate on that so I can repeat that.
Mm-hmm.
When you do that and you start doing that every day, it creates a habit. And with that habit, you start with neuroplasticity in the brain, where you start moving your thought processes from one part of the brain that makes you or helps you focus on negative stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and actually starts making the neurons fire in another part of your brain where you actually focus on optimism, happiness, stuff like that. So,
Mm-hmm.
Hunt the good stuff, people think is hokey, but if you understand what is good and why it is good, why it's meaningful to you and the people around you, it's a really useful tool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I really like what you said. It's an intentional practice, so you have to do it over and over and over to get those neurons to fire together, to make it a habit.
Right. The neurons that fire together wire together.
Yes.
And then you have to turn it into a habit. And really, ultimately, you're looking to improve your optimism, and people want to be around optimistic people.
Mm-hmm.
Positivity is contagious. Negative people, we all have that one friend or family member or somebody that we know that every time it's always something negative, and
Mm-hmm.
you are literally exhausted talking to them,
Yes.
and they wear you down. So people want to be around positive and optimistic people.
Interesting. You frame it that way. I think another easy way to kind of look at it is, in life we have people that are energy chargers and energy drainers. And I think that based upon your disposition, whether you choose to push optimism, ascribe to gratitude, look for the positive, as you mentioned before, versus hyper focus on the negative, or really reinforcing that negativity bias, you can either put yourself in one category or the other, and kind of ask yourself, not only who do I want to be around, but what kind of person do I want to show up as? Do I want to be the guy they call and they're like, ugh, or do I want to be the person like, hey, what's going on? That kind of deal.
And you're absolutely right. There's some people that are very positive and optimistic, and I'm not talking about the overly bubbly type person, because they can be annoying. But somebody that they see the good, is positive, you feel energized when you're around them, and that's a really big deal. You have some people that think of it as, like you're hiding your head in the sand or something, being overly optimistic, and it's really not like that. It's just a matter of being, or feeding your own optimism and your own gratitude for things. You feel better. It's already proven that optimistic people actually are healthier mentally and physically. They're better rested. They're better performers. They heal faster, and opposed to like a pessimistic or negative person. And so the optimism part, I mean, that's a good sell for me. I like to live longer and get more rest and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. Kind of on a personal note, how have these skills, all of these skills that are in the MRT program, how have they helped you?
As one of my counterparts said earlier today, I used to be a very angry and toxic person. Mm-hmm. I had a toxic home life, and I had a toxic career life, and I did not know how to balance those. I did not have the coping mechanisms. Mm-hmm. Really didn't. So I went to drinking heavily. Mm-hmm. I was a heavy drinker. That was my coping mechanism. It's what I'd seen with my father and my father's father. Mm-hmm. And so that was the coping mechanism I knew. That's how I socialized, and that's all I knew. Fast forward, I mean, it lost me a lot. It lost me a lot of my career. It really damaged the connectedness I had with my family. Mm-hmm. And fast forward to when I finally started getting the resiliency training and took it to heart. I mean, I am 180 degrees different person than what I was then in 2012.
Sure.
And when you really take those skills and apply them, it is really life-changing. Because you find out that you conduct yourself differently because you understand more about yourself. And people think of resiliency as, peaches and cream and unicorn farts. I mean, they think it's hope. But in the Army, we talk about being a master of everything that we do. Well, we first have to master ourselves. Because the weapon you're going to handle or the event you're going to handle is not going to be any good if you haven't mastered yourself first. And I appreciated the understanding, the insight that all these skills gave me about myself to show what was productive and what was non-productive. Not everything that I was doing was negative, and some of it was useful. So I knew what to keep and then what let's not use this as much. So we can find out that some of our own behaviors, stuff like that, are a hindrance to ourselves, and we're only harming ourselves and the people around us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. And I really want to just go back real quickly about what you said about, regulating yourself and mastering yourself. And that self-regulation piece is one of the 6 components of the MRT program, right?
Absolutely. Self-awareness and self-regulation.
Yes.
You have to be aware about yourself before you can regulate yourself. Mm-hmm. It means you've got to take a hard look in that mirror.
How do you do that? How do you notice about yourself, especially if it's something that maybe you don't like, or maybe that's not a positive trait?
Nobody likes to take that good, harsh look in the mirror. And a lot of us, we are our own worst critic. And then there's sometimes we're comfortable with what we are because we know it. Doesn't mean it's healthy. Right? Doesn't mean that's a good, but we're comfortable and we don't want to change because that means we have to exert effort. Mm-hmm. So take that person you see in the mirror and take it small bites at a time. We don't have to change all at once. If somebody drank, I had to take my drinking down to a point where it was not unhealthy or anything like that. So hey, took a little bit less each time. Mm-hmm. A little less each time. Started focusing on my physical fitness better. So I exercised a little bit longer. And I want to go a little bit farther. So it doesn't have to be done all at once. Mm-hmm. But that's why we have one of the resiliency skills is goal setting. So you take that picture and you take it and you have short-term goals. Mm-hmm. And you find out what it's going to take and you make a plan on what it's going to take to get you to the end state. And then when you've corrected that about yourself, until something that you're happy to look at in the mirror, then go on to set a goal or a plan for your next goal, or for the next thing you want to change, as long as it's healthy. And, that's one of those things, too, is I keep saying healthy, healthy, healthy. And resiliency, even though we'd say it gets a bad rap in the Army, but with that, it also has a high expectation. It gets a bad rap because nobody wants to do it, but it also has a heavy expectation. People say resiliency lowers suicide rates.
Yes.
Resiliency lowers substance abuse and alcohol use. It lowers the divorce rates.
But that's not what it's designed for, right?
That's not true. The lowered substance abuse, suicide rates, and divorces is a byproduct of being more resilient. Someone that is more resilient or a more resilient individual is less prone to falling into those categories or into substance abuse or something like that because they already have healthy coping mechanisms. So they don't really being dependent on something does not really cross their mind. It doesn't really end up in their peripherals. Because, again, they're more optimistic. They don't really see it. And it's not saying that they're walking through life with blinders on and they don't know about it. It has less application to their lives because they're an optimistic and resilient thinker. They know how to take a calculated risk. They know how to grow from adverse effects. So they have more protective factors in their life to mitigate the risk factors that they have or may pop up.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Just make sure that I actually heard you correctly. So, because I think that sometimes we can get into this idea of thinking either I'm this or I'm that. Either I'm an optimist or I'm a pessimist or I'm a realist or however you want to frame it. And what I'm hearing you say is that these are all skills that can be learned. Like you mentioned, you said, I learned to be a heavy drinker. I watched my grandpa and my father, and I just kind of picked it up as like, this is how you cope with stressful times. It was a social learning thing.
Social learning.
Right, and I'm also hearing you say here that the same way that you say some people are resilient, but others might not be. But you can teach those skills. You can teach resiliency.
Yes.
Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Absolutely. It has to be developed. Just like your body and physical fitness, if you work out, if you diet, or whatever you do, you have to develop, and you have to keep feeding that resiliency, just like you do with your education. You have to develop yourself towards academia. You have to develop yourself for leadership. You have to develop your confidence. You have to develop your physical fitness. You also have to develop your resilience. Now, some people are more prone to resiliency, or resiliency, you'd say, well, they're just naturally resilient. They already have an intrinsic motivation towards being an optimist. But that still doesn't mean that they can't keep developing or that they don't have to.
Sure. And I love that connection that you're making to physical health. And I think that in a similar vein, just in the sense that we have to practice these things. Once we kind of get there, if we become a resilient person, or if we have been able to effectively practice and use all of these skills in the MRT model, we can't then stop. We have to keep doing it, or just like working out, your muscles will atrophy, or like your mental muscles will atrophy as well.
Right, and that's so true. And the connectedness of resiliency with your mental health, I mean, it's huge. You have to keep yourself happy. Again, negativity bias hits everybody. Everybody's surrounded by it. So you have to make it a habit to look for positive things. And not make them up. They have to actually be meaningful. It doesn't have to be big, but it has to at least be meaningful to you. And that helps your mental health and also your physical health. It lowers that anxiety. People are running around and being hospitalized for panic attacks, high blood pressure, heart problems. A lot of it just brought on by anxiety and stress because they don't have the resiliency. And I'm not saying that resiliency is going to clean out clogged arteries. That's not what I'm saying at all.
Sure.
All right, maybe some healthy eating habits too. But the benefits of lowering your blood pressure because of anxiety or stress or reduced sense of stress, being able to rest better, that's a big deal. It's a pretty easy trade-off.
Absolutely. So soldiers who want to learn more about resiliency or want to learn more about the skills that are in the model, how can they do that?
Well, it's easy. Each unit has a MRT, a Romeo, that teaches these skills. And a lot of units also have resiliency training assistants. Or they can now also reach out to me at my andre.p.chatry.mail@mail.mil, or call my office at 501-212-4025.
Okay.
And everything that is taught in the Master Resiliency Training can be found in, Penn State or the Penn University. And it's all based on research that's open source. So anybody can just Google resiliency. It doesn't even have to be Master Resiliency. That, the Army model, because the Army model is based on all that research.
From
so
the
they can
people
actually,
in Pennsylvania.
yes, Penn State or any, anybody in the counseling and psychological field. And so it's really easy just to be able to find that information that's needed for you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your willingness to talk with us today and to share your personal experiences, to be vulnerable with us, because I really believe that, having these conversations is what's going to help people connect to resources and connect to this idea that we all have mental health and that we really can build ourselves up, that we really can become stronger in this, just like we're practicing for, the APFT or the ACFT. We can do the same thing for our mental health.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.